To EV or not to EV? PHEV is the question. Hi there, Grumpy here. Sorry for butchering Shakespeare, but this sort of question gets asked a lot by people wanting to move into the electric vehicle market. Should I go straight to a full battery vehicle or buy a PHEV, plug-in hybrid electrical vehicle, first? And I'm not talking about simple hybrids with no plug. They are, in my opinion, a complete waste of space, as they burn dino juice to self-charge a puny battery. And I'm not covering fuel cell vehicles either that run on hydrogen. I think they're an even bigger waste of space and money, certainly for passenger vehicles. When I first wanted to get out of ICE vehicles, I did start to look at Teslas. But at that time, the Model 3 just wasn't available in Australia. And my wife wouldn't let me buy a Model S or X due to their cost. And this is going back 3 or 4 years. And at that time, I was hesitant myself, as the charging options were very limited. So I thought a PHEV would be a good interim measure. And I actually did end up getting one. It had a whopping almost 40-kilometre range on the battery. But back then, my journey to work was 19 kilometres one way and 19 kilometres back. So I could get there and back on the battery. When I got home, I used to plug it in and I could charge it enough to get to somewhere else that I went 4 nights a week. And when I was there, I could plug it in and get enough charge to get home. It's about 25 kilometres each way. And then I'd plug it in at night and it would charge fully for the next working day. And that worked out great. I could run the car on battery all the time, until the car decided that the fuel in the tank was getting stale and refused to use anything except the petrol until I'd used a large portion of the fuel and had then replaced it by filling it up. To me, that was completely defeating the object. I did manage to run the car, and about 77% of the kilometres were on battery and the other 23% was on petrol. Now, the manufacturers of this, which back then was an Outlander PHEV, they stated your car would average 1.7 litres per 100 kilometres. Bullshit. Yeah, right. Even with my absolute maximum use of the battery, I could only get just under 3 litres per 100k. Still reasonable, but it wasn't what I wanted. Then the Model 3 became available in Australia. Yay, and I went straight out and ordered one. And when it arrived a few months late, 3 or 4 months later, the PHEV out the door. So I've experienced both internal combustion engines, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, and full battery cars. And I can therefore appreciate the fact that some people want to buy a plug-in hybrid first, as they have some uncertainties about range and charging and so on. But that was some years ago, and it's changed a lot over the last 3 years. But let's take a look at the pros and cons of each. Pros: EVs don't burn fuel, so they pollute less with no exhaust emissions. And what comes out of the exhaust is pretty noxious stuff. They cost a lot less to run. You've only got to look at my recent video on the cost of running an EV. They're fun to drive. That instant torque and that acceleration that you get from EVs, certainly with Teslas, you've just got to experience it. They run in virtual complete silence. More EVs are coming onto the market. They all run silently. You've got a little bit of a noise there of tyres on the road and so on. You avoid the need to go to the petrol and gas stations all the time and pay a fortune for it. Most people, about 95% of EV owners, charge at home. And when they wake up in the morning, they've got a full tank to go and do things. So they've got their 300-kilometre range every morning. Can't do that with a petrol or diesel car. There's hardly any maintenance or service required. Certainly with Teslas, there's no regular maintenance required. Other EVs that are coming onto the market, they want you to take them in because, you know. With plug-in hybrids, you could view them as the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds. They've got a longer range. They've got a short range on the battery, but then with the tank of juice, that certainly can give them 400, 500, 600-kilometre range. So that's certainly longer. But longer range EVs are coming. You've only just got to look at the battery technology that's going into some cars. And within, well, next year, I reckon, you're going to have EVs that will do 600, the next year 1,000 kilometres. So that's probably blown that one out of the water a bit. They're certainly more economic, plug-in hybrids, than internal combustion engine vehicles, and they are slightly cheaper to purchase than electric vehicles. So they could be considered as a stepping stone to get used to EVs and learning the ropes. So the cons. EVs. Range anxiety is the big one that people complain about, and the poor charging infrastructure. That's getting better. Here in WA, the state government spending a few million or tens of millions putting in some chargers. They'll start going in next year and be completed in 2024. So that's getting better. The towing ability. And although that's getting better, EVs do have, at the moment, they struggle with towing. My Model 3 can tow 1 metric tonne or 1,000 kilos, braked. The Model Y coming in next month, yes, will be able to tow 1.6 metric tonnes or 1,600 kilos. Not anywhere near the 3.5 tonnes that some of the cars can pull. But when the Cybertruck gets here, the top of the Wazza one will be able to tow 7.5 tonnes possibly. So that should blow things out of the water. And the initial cost of an EV is higher, and you need to think differently when you've got an EV. So you've got to start planning a little bit more, know where the charging points are, work out how far you can go, because they're a little bit more interspersed than petrol stations. They're going up all over the place. With plug-in hybrids, as I said, initially you could view them as the best of both worlds, but you can view them as the worst of both worlds. Their electric range is usually pathetic. As I said, my PHEV had got a range of up to 40. The latest model of that has gone from a 13 kilowatt hour battery to a 20 kilowatt hour battery, and the range has gone, they say 84, but the original one could never do 40, so I don't think that'll ever be able to do 84. They cost more than your petrol diesel equivalents. So if you look at the Hyundai Ioniq, the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid, and the full electric, they go up in price. They still need fuel and hence pollute the atmosphere. They cost more to run than battery electric vehicles, and they probably cost about the same to run as an internal combustion petrol or diesel engine, because they've got a petrol or diesel engine in them. So which one's right for you? Well, I can say with all certainty you should not buy a petrol or diesel vehicle, or even a simple hybrid with no plug, let alone a fuel cell vehicle. You're bonkers. Now, I've had both a plug-in hybrid and now a battery electric vehicle, and I can honestly say 100% the battery only vehicle is the way to go. But I can understand people wanting to get a plug-in hybrid because they've still got a lot of concerns. and the electric vehicles are not really mainstream yet. Yes, they do cost a bit more, the electric vehicles, over the plug-in hybrids, but the running costs are so low that after only a few years, they work out cheaper. I've owned my Tesla Model 3 for 2.5 years now. I've done 60,000 kilometers, and I can honestly say it's worked out a lot cheaper. When I come to sell it, I'm going to virtually get my money back. With the Outlander PHEV that I had, I lost a lot of money on that after owning it for about a year. They drop 30% in the first year, easy. My Tesla, a lot of people are selling their Teslas for the same, if not more, than they paid for it a year or two ago. So I think getting a battery electric vehicle is the way to go. And if you keep the average life expectancy for people to keep their cars 5 to 6 years, there's different figures quoted, you're going to be way ahead total cost of ownership with the battery electric vehicle. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to completely disagree with me, and that's fine. Put your comments below and I'll have a quick read. So thanks for watching. Please don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it will help the channel. Thanks very much. See you all soon.